Hello, BookTube, and welcome back. Well, I thought I might, restart my kind of semi-book reviews. Not really book reviews, I'm more a book reviewer. It's more of my opinion of a book in 10 minutes or less. So I thought to myself, why don't you just do the next batch of non-fiction that you've read? So the first one is Finding Albion by Zakia Sewell. There's a bit of a glare there because it's laminated, a beautiful laminated library edition there. And it's not that big either. It's okay. It's good. It's all right. It's good. So this book is the author going about the British Isles looking for really the old ways, the paganism, shamanism, if that's a word, druid, all that kind of stuff, where the old folk stuff used to come from. And she's going across Albion, which is what Britain was called back in the day. And so that's basically the author's thesis, what she's going to do. She goes around the UK discussing myths and how they were derived. So this book is set like 8 or 9 chapters, I think. And again, it's only a wee book. So 8 or 9 chapters, and each one are, just in a location in the UK. I think most of them are in England. There's one in Wales, and there's also one up in Scotland too. And each chapter just takes, into account whatever the folklore will be. There will be, May dance, May Day, all that kind of stuff. Morris dancing, all that kind of old paganism ways in the UK. And it's a very, very because she does that and separates it into like 8 distinct or 9. I think it's 9 chapters, 9 distinct categories. It's easy to digest and easy to follow the path where she wants you to go. Now, with it being a non-fiction book, there's a lot of. I'll get to it more in the overall opinion of the book. There's a lot of obviously facts that get thrown into this, but it's not overly heavily researched. I mean, look at some of the books up there. Some of them are chunky and full of research. This is not research intensive or research heavy. It gives you quotes on who come up with X, Y, Z, and alternative histories as well, and who said what. It gives you that, and it does have a what's it called, a notes and reference in this, but it's not heavily on the research focused. It's more on the author's opinions of where she goes and what she makes of the myth. Her writing style is very, very welcoming. I can't absolutely great read this. It is a good read. I mean, it's skinny. I read this in a day. I thought it was her writing style was pretty spot on. It's quite critical all the way through and quite reflective. She's British and Caribbean, I think. Zakia, I think I've got that right. I think she is. So she basically, going across the UK to find her roots and find British roots and how being Caribbean also affects that. And it's very engaging. She's very reflective, like I said, and yeah. So I guess the most important insight in this book is that it's heavily more on. I'm trying to find the best kind of takeaways to take from this book is that there's a lot of the old ways. I like to call them. Robert Macfarlane calls them the old ways, which I like to repeat. Paganism and whatnot. And the key takeaways is there's a lot, and it's derived from many, many different cultures. Some of them possibly through our imperial days when we had an empire. We used to bring, Indian traditions. We used to bring not Afro-American, Caribbean culture over to the UK, and how that's really, really influenced British culture. And a large part of this takeaway is fighting back on the far right critique that, oh, it's white all the way down, basically, which is, I think, in today's atmosphere, is a really key takeaway from a book, and it should focus, a lot should focus on that far right kind of foundation of racism that Britain is primary, all the way back, white, and we can learn nothing from our multicultural heritage, especially during our imperial days. Come on, we are a global empire, and we are importing not just goods, we are importing ideas from all the places that we went. So that's where it's really relevant. This book, it's much more to do with the author's thoughts and opinions, and of where these traditions came from, rather than the traditions themselves. If that makes any sense to you, it's less to do with the actual folklore itself, and it's more of the author's opinions, and that's part of my problem with this book. I mean, the final verdict, it's a worthwhile read. It is. It's only small. The writing is top of the notch. It's really good. She's engaging all the way through. But I wanted a little bit more to do with history of British folklore. I mean, I'm very much interested in that in any way. She talks, I mean, Beowulf is a great example, and she mentions that Beowulf has come from like a Scandinavian background, but she didn't really dig much deeper than that. She mentioned again shamanism and druids, and okay, yeah, what's the difference between that? And how does paganism fit in with that? And here's Wicca. What does it all mean? There's a lot of, again, critiques that come with what we've done and what we brought in, but there's not enough. I wanted more around the history and of the tradition, but it's still a very, very, very well done non-fiction book about folklore. And if you're interested in paganism, and if you're interested in a lot of where our original traditions come from, you will get some of it from this book. So yeah, if you want to read Finding Albion by Zakia Sewell, pick it up. It's a worthwhile read. It's a short read. So yeah, I don't know. I don't usually give like a 7 out of 10 because what does it actually mean? So it's a very surface level look at traditions, the old ways, the likes of paganism and folklore, and how that's been derived in the UK, but not really focusing in on the actual history of paganism, and how I mean, when the Roman emperor, is it Theodosius I, made Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire, and then started to really push down on paganism throughout the Roman Empire, and how that affected the early paganism in the UK. And she does talk a lot about, I'm waffling now. She does talk a lot about when the Puritans finally took over the country as well and cut the head off the king, because the Puritans are very much none of this, no Christmas, no Yule tree, no joy, and nothing, and how that kind of like how our traditions then grew out of that, and which is good. So pick it up if you're interested in a kind of like folklore-esque author's opinions and her meanderings really of a going through the UK, because it's a little bit muddled like this review. But yeah, it's a worthwhile read. Pick it up. This is Finding Albion by BookTube.